What's up, guys? Welcome into another episode of the Wolverine Live Show. I am your host, EJ Holland, and today we're going to be answering all of your questions. It looks like we already have plenty of people in the chat box, so shout out to everybody that was here early. Before we dive into the questions, just want to remind you guys to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free, get updates every time we drop new videos, which has been pretty often with all of the commitments coming in. So don't miss an alert. Subscribe and like this video. Help us get in front of other Michigan fans so we can have more conversation. The other thing I want to note before we get into the questions is subscribe to the Wolverine.com. Right now, we have a special promo code for our YouTube viewers, and that is UM1. Sign up for $1 for 2 months over at the Wolverine.com, and that gets you premium insider information on everything recruiting. So even more than you get on the show, team stuff, basketball, transfer portal. We have a great message board community over on the fort with more than 8,000 unique individual users. So get everything that you need over at the Wolverine.com for just $1 for 2 months. And again, that promo code was UM1. All right, guys, let's get into your questions. John Schultz was here bright and early, and he says, EJ, does Michigan know their food last year at the barbecue was trash and a laughingstock? Well, we're coming in hot today, and will they do better this year? If you were advising them, what would you choose? Yes, I believe they know that the food was not good. Obviously, the tweet last year went pretty viral with the hot dog that had the one little burnt grill mark, and then you had the Tyson chicken tenders and the mac and cheese that looked like it was what was that like frozen food that had the penguin on it when we were children. Like that was that's what the mac and cheese looked like. So it was a pretty sad plate all around. I do think that they're fully aware of that. Like I said, that post went pretty viral across college football's, social media accounts with several, major outlets writing about how bad it was. So I do think they're going to try to step it up this year and deliver some better food. And you saw it on the official visits, the recruits gave Michigan some really positive food reviews. You saw the tacos that I tweeted out that were served to the recruits as well. So yeah, I think that they're going to do a better job for the barbecue at the big house. I was told that hot dogs were still available on the official visits. There were no pictures taken of them. So, who knows if they're better than those other ones. But if it were up to me, I mean, hot dogs are part of like a cookout, I guess. Some people do make, barbecue or not barbecue hot dogs. Some people grill hot dogs and serve them up on like 4th of July and stuff, obviously. So, I mean, if it were up to me, I would just have like Coney Island cater the hot dogs and be like, here, try this Detroit Coney that's super famous. And then I would just have a bunch of food trucks and stuff. I'm sure there is some local pit masters around Ann Arbor that would be willing to grill up some barbecue for free. If not, I would just have Mission Barbecue cater. They're pretty solid and they're opening around Ann Arbor apparently. So yeah, I mean, I would just do the food trucks. I'd have Coney Island there. I'd cater Mission Barbecue or have some pit masters come in. So, that's what I would do if it were me. And then I would just eliminate chicken tenders. Like chicken tenders really aren't part of, a barbecue or a cookout. I mean, I'd have some burgers definitely available as well, and just kind of hype it up. Doesn't like Eminem have some type of oh no, he has mob spaghetti, but I'm sure you can find some type of like celebrity to mix in there as well. Just make it a really super fun event with some good food. Make it like a true cookout barbecue style. Let's enough of the food discussion. Let's go with John A. Schultz. And he says, speaking of the barbecue, who are the most important players attending? Is it Andrew Marsh? Could it be some of the 26 players or whoever the 25 cornerbacks decide? Yeah, so we're still kind of a month away, roughly. The barbecue is at the end of July. It's barely July 3rd, but in the 25 class, Andrew Marsh is scheduled to come in, top 100 wide receiver. It's a prime opportunity for Michigan to really build on the momentum coming out of official visit season. It's clear Michigan has a lead in this recruitment right now, 84.7% chance of landing him. I've put in a prediction. Steve Wilfong has put in a prediction as well. So, Michigan's trending the right way, but Kentucky is still pushing here. He's supposed to visit Washington at the end of July as well. So it's a good opportunity for Michigan to completely seal the deal in this recruitment. And, another guy that's supposed to be on campus in the 25 class is Jerome Miles, who has been a huge riser in the recruiting rankings, a guy that fits that bigger bodied mold. I know Michigan got Jacob Washington this summer, but Jerome Miles is an absolute freak, man. 6'3", 215 pounds, and then he runs like a 10.5, 100 meters. So that is absolutely blazing, especially for a guy his size now. 24/7 has him ranked as the number 31 overall prospect in the country, a 5-star. ESPN has him even higher than that at 26. So I think On3 is updating their rankings this month, so I would expect them to, balloon there and no longer be a 3-star. Utah is the overwhelming favorite in this recruitment, but Texas A&M's making a push. Auburn is making a push as well. Michigan's obviously still involved, so I think they'll have a chance to really move the needle at the barbecue. So we'll see how that one turns out. And Michigan is working on some 25 corners that are committed elsewhere. So we'll see who pops up. They're also getting Jaden Sanders, a 3-star corner on campus. But, it'll be a big event for 26s. Brady Hart's coming in, and he's going to really help lead the charge with recruiting guys. The guy in the thumbnail is Savion Hyder, the nation's number 2 ranked running back out of Virginia. He is planning to be at the barbecue. He was already on campus in the spring and a major target for Tony Alford. Hyder is a guy that Alford recruited dating back to his time at Ohio State. I mean, as soon as Alford was hired, Hyder visited. So a big reason for his interest in Michigan is Alford, but I think the barbecue visit will give him a chance to get another look at the campus, continue to feel at home with the culture, and just learn even more about the program. He obviously likes that Michigan is a run-first team, and so I think things are trending upwards with Hyder right now. I would say Michigan is right up there with Georgia, so he'll be a big name on campus, and he's not the only highly touted running back expected to be in Ann Arbor. Javion Osborne out of the great state of Texas is also set to be at the barbecue. Osborne is actually the number 1 ranked running back in the country per On3. And, there's a tiny bit of a tie here. New Michigan assistant J.B. Brown is from Texas, and his father is currently on staff as well, James Brown. James Brown was a longtime high school coach and coached in the Forney area where Javion Osborne is from, and J.B. Brown spent some of his time growing up there too. So, I think that Osborne is probably a bit of a tougher land than Savion Hyder. Texas is considered the early favorite there, but he's another guy that's super highly touted, expected to come in. So Tony Alford's already secured some running backs, and there are several other big-time 26s set to come in. And like I said, Brady Hart will be there to recruit them, but we'll have a full list closer to the date. Then John A. Schultz, last question is, barbecue flavored chips, good or disgusting? I like barbecue flavored chips, big barbecue flavored chips fan. Yeah, I mean, I enjoy the Miss Vickers barbecue. I'll eat the crappy Lay's barbecue chips as well. They're overall, they're solid. They're in that upper tier for me. Let's go down to Tyson Smith, and he says, do we land Olesh? Why hasn't he committed yet? Yeah, so top 100 tight end Andrew Olesh was set to make a decision this week. and pushed things back a week. So now he will be making a decision next week. He had a call with Alabama as they tried to make a late push. Penn State has continued to stay in contact with him and the family. So I think he just needed a little more time. But I think that Michigan is still the team to beat here. I don't really have much concern. Alabama also just landed a tight end commitment. So, and I think Olesh himself definitely prefers Michigan over Penn State. The official visit went really well. Olesh bonded with some of the guys on the team like Colston Loveland and Max Bredesen. He connected well with some of the commits like Carter Smith and Eli Owens. I think he just felt at home at Michigan. He's also built a great relationship with new tight ends coach Steve Casula, who has made him the lone priority at the tight end position. And, a big selling point for Michigan has just been come be the next Colston Loveland. And I think that's really resonated with Andrew Olesh. So I expect him to shut it down next week. And I still like my prediction in favor of Michigan. And obviously it would be a big land. He is the guy at the tight end position. And like I've mentioned before, he's a big athletic pass catcher that can be a difference maker in this offense, especially with the way Michigan utilizes the tight end position. Tyson Smith says, who do you want Michigan to land on July 13th, Taz or Philip Wright? Yeah, so both wide receiver targets, Taz Williams and Philip Wright, are set to make their decisions on July 13th. So with Taz Williams, things have kind of dropped off a little bit there. I would probably give Penn State the advantage right now. You have to think about it this way. And I think I said it yesterday when I was talking with Chad Simmons, which, by the way, On3 national analyst Chad Simmons joined me on yesterday's show. Definitely go check out that replay. He had a lot of great stuff to say. But something I mentioned when talking about Taz Williams is Michigan has that lead for Andrew Marsh, who Michigan considers more of a slot guy. They have the lead for Philip Wright. Where does Taz Williams kind of fit into the picture? Do they take another slot guy? Remember, Michigan already has landed several slot guys in recent cycles, including 2 last year, and Imarion Stewart and Channing Goodwin. So I think they've made Philip Wright a bit more of a priority than Taz Williams. So right now, I'm not expecting Taz to side with Michigan. Could that change? Yes, that recruitment's been pretty fluid. But I think Philip Wright has risen up as more of a priority, and Michigan obviously has the lead on the On3 recruiting prediction machine. I don't think he's a take for Georgia. I know he's not a take for LSU. He made official visits to both Baylor and Georgia Tech, but they seem to be out of it. So all signs point to Michigan being the pick here in 10 days. He's not as highly ranked as Taz is, but man, he can really go. Taz doesn't have Taz is probably a better player right now, but he does not have the top end speed that Philip Wright has. I mean, he is a burner running a 10.46, 100 meters. So in the perfect world, let's say Michigan does get Andrew Marsh, I'd rather pair him up with Philip Wright because, yeah, he's not as good of a player as Taz right now in terms of being technically refined and knowing the intricacies of playing the wide receiver position. But he has game-changing speed, and he can be coached up by Ron Bellamy and improve as a route runner and be a better wide receiver overall. But you can't teach Taz to get that much faster, especially not 10.46 fast. So I would probably take the speed. I think I am thinking along the same lines as the Michigan staff. Hey, we got a guy in Andrew Marsh that is leaning our way. If we're able to close with him, Marsh is an elite talent that doesn't necessarily have the top end speed either, but just a really tactical route runner and a guy that is a playmaker when the ball is in the air. Instead of getting another guy that's a tactical route runner and a safe wide receiver take, let's go out and take a chance on someone that can provide that game-changing speed opposite of Marsh. So I would probably go with Philip Wright. Tyson Smith says, Baby Yoda or Baby Groot? I will be completely honest with you and say I started watching The Mandalorian and then my wife did not like it, so I never finished watching it. But I did enjoy Baby Yoda, and I actually have a Baby Yoda catnip plant for my cat. So I'm a Baby Yoda fan. But Baby Groot, and also I'm a Star Wars fan, and so is my wife. She's not being lame, but I feel like ever since the Star Wars franchise got really monopolized by Disney, it hasn't really been the same. But still a Star Wars fan. I should probably watch the rest of the Mandalorian myself. Baby Groot, I don't even know where he's from. Like he looks kind of cool in the gifs, dancing around and stuff, but I've never seen that movie. I know that there's a raccoon in it and stuff, but yeah, I'm not a big superhero guy, so I've never watched the actual Baby Groot movie. I could not even tell you the title of that superhero group. So, Baby Yoda for the win. Hayden Renfro says, "Do we still need another edge at not getting Marco Jones?" Well, you already have two. You have a bigger edge in Jalen Williams. You have Julius Holly, who's basically Jalen Harrell. And then you have Nate Marshall, who can stand up as well. Just depends on how his frame kind of shakes out. So it's not necessarily a pressing need per se. I think that they would probably like to add another defensive lineman or edge, probably either or. There just aren't a lot of targets on the board right now. DJ Sanders really being the lone defensive line target, and Marco Jones is off the board committing to Texas A&M yesterday. So I think they kind of maybe circle back on some guys, take a look at potential late risers. Again, it's not the most pressing need in the world. I would personally like to see them at a nose like a DJ Sanders, but those don't really grow on trees. So, and the other thing about nose prospects is some of them or a lot of them are actually late risers. So maybe, a guy will pop up here in the fall with a strong senior year. But as of right now, I think they're going to maybe circle back or evaluate some senior film. Just there aren't many names to know there right now. Hayden Renfro also says, "Happy 4th of July. What do you think our biggest recruiting hole is right now? When do you see our next commitment coming on the defensive side of the ball?" The biggest hole right now is cornerback. That is the board that worries me the most because it's kind of Shamari Earls or bust, and it looks like Shamari Earls is still leaning towards Georgia as of today. That doesn't leave you with many highly touted guys. Now, Michigan will try to flip some prospects like Micah Strickland, who's committed to TCU, Donovan Starr, who's committed to Auburn, some of the Texas A&M kids. But Shamari Earls, they've put a ton of time and resources and pushed so hard to land him. And right now, it still seems like the arrow is pointing towards Georgia. So that's tough sledding. You don't want to get into a position where you're just landing 2-3 star corners, especially when the corner room itself isn't all that strong. You'd probably have to hit the portal really hard. So yeah, corner is the one where it's looking pretty dicey if Shamari Earls does end up at Georgia. Who do you think will be the next commit on the defensive side of the ball? There's nobody set to announce right now, but I think I don't know. I think Kamar Archie is a guy that could make a decision here before the end of the month. Wusu Boateng doesn't have a set decision date, but he could decide at any point. Maybe Michigan makes a move with Jaden Sanders on the barbecue visit. So there's some candidates out there, but nothing really imminent in terms of a defensive commit. Butter XO, just to address this super quick, guys. I know a lot of y'all have noticed that Zach Libby hasn't been on the YouTube show. He has some personal things he's had to take care of, but he should be back soon. That's more of Zach's business, but he is still on staff, and we do expect to have him back at some point. Juju says, if DJ Sanders holds off on a commitment till the barbecue, do you feel like we have a legit shot? Yeah, they absolutely have to get him to hold off. Right now, Texas is the leader. They're pushing hard for him to shut it down sooner rather than later, especially with a barbecue visit in the plans. Texas A&M is the leader on the RPM, but Texas has taken the lead in that recruitment. So, in order for Michigan to have a shot, they do have to get him on campus for the barbecue, prevent the Texas commitment. The longer it goes, the better for Michigan. The sooner it goes, the better for Texas. And even if it goes really long, this is going to be a tough battle to win, but Michigan would have a fighting chance if he takes it even past the barbecue. If I'm Michigan, I want him to take it all the way to signing day. Have fun. Take it all the way out. Get him back for a game. Remember, he has family in the Detroit metro, so wouldn't be too difficult for him to get back. But yeah, I want him to just take it as long as possible. Juju says, who are the trio of wide receivers that Brady Hart is connecting with? So I did write something to that effect over at thewolverine.com. So remember, if you're not a subscriber to thewolverine.com, use the promo code UM1. That's $1 for 2 months. That is less than the price of anything on the dollar menu at McDonald's, because everything on that menu is more than $1 these days, it seems. So sign up today, UM1, $1 for 2 months. But I will say Brady is reaching out to several wide receivers, including Travis Johnson, who I want to highlight specifically just because he's coming in for the barbecue, an on 300 wide receiver out of Oscar Smith in Chesapeake, Virginia. They connected really well at the Future 50 event. They were teammates for the 5v5 flag football portion of the event. Right now, you see Penn State is considered the early favorite there, but this trip for the barbecue will mark Johnson's first time on campus, and they'll have a chance to move the needle, and Hart will reconnect with him there. All right, before we get into more questions, guys, I do have a message from I got choked up there. I do have a message from our sponsor, which is ourselves, and that is the Wolverine magazine. So along with the website, we have a magazine. The Wolverine magazine football preview is coming out. It has more than 160 action-packed pages. This is a must-have for every Wolverine fan. Every edition has special features you won't find anywhere else, including a season preview breaking down the Wolverines' best players, position groups, the freshmen most likely to play, and more. It has a detailed position-by-position look, featured articles on players and coaches, final evaluation on the departing recruiting class, a roundtable with college football experts, a notes section, Big Ten preview, expert columns, opponent previews, and so much more. You can find the football preview over at thewolverinedemand.com. And I do believe that there's still availability on the National Championship commemorative edition. So if you didn't get that, make sure to order that as well. Both magazines and the commemorative editions, also available in a hardback book, can be found over at the wolverineondemand.com. So don't miss out on getting your copy today. All right, let's get back to the question. Butter XO says, do you think Earls commits to Georgia soon? Right now, I would favor Georgia, and I do expect a decision to come soon, potentially next week for him. I know he's committed to South Carolina, so not necessarily a decision, but I don't think he'll stick with the Gamecocks, obviously. Juju says, is there a realistic shot with Jerome Miles? I see Utah as the leader. I don't feel like they would be hard to beat out if that's the only contender. Well, we talked a little bit about him earlier. He's supposed to come in for the barbecue, but more and more schools have started to show interest. Obviously, he was committed to Ole Miss. Utah did host him for an OV. He is a Utah kid, so I don't think you can just count out Utah like that for an in-state prospect. They recruit at a pretty high clip in their own backyard. But Texas A&M has gotten really involved here. Auburn has really gotten involved here. So I think both programs will also be working to get him to their own events here at the end of the month. But yeah, I think Michigan has a realistic shot if they do, in fact, get him on campus for the barbecue. Like I said, they already have Jacob Washington committed as a bigger bodied guy, but I think you find a way to take Miles anyway, especially with there being such a need for a true outside receiver. Remember, Michigan hadn't landed anybody over 6'2" since the 2022 recruiting class with Darius Clemens, who's gone, and Amarion Walker, who's bounced back and forth from offense and defense. So I think you find a way to make room for Miles because he is a top talent at a position of need, and also just a freak prospect that is really moving up the rankings. Butter XO back with another one. He says, if Michigan doesn't get Babalola, who are some offensive linemen that Michigan can circle back to? I don't know. That's tough because there are a lot of names that Michigan was in on that they kind of pushed away, like Rowan Byrne, who ended up committing to Clemson, and John Mills, who ended up committing to Texas. Logan Powell, I'm not really sure where he ended up landing, but those are some of the names that they were on. But all of those guys were more interior guys. Like, man, they need a tackle. Like, Avery Gash isn't a tackle, he's a guard. Caden Strayhorn's not a tackle, he's a center. It's just kind of slim pickings at tackle because the elites are getting NIL. And then, Michigan's missed on some guys in their normal range. So if they don't get Babalola, I don't know where they go from there. But I do think they need to find a tackle, whether it's a late senior riser or someone they found initially in the process that they kind of circle back and reevaluate, but kind of slim pickings for a true tackle. And even if they would have landed Hardy Watts, I still thought he was more of a guard than a tackle. So I think it's just a rough year finding true tackles. Let's go down to Juju, and he says, do you think Carter Smith will get a bump in the rankings his senior year? Yeah, I think the potential is certainly there. I think Carter is really progressing a lot as a passer this offseason. He's been up in Jacksonville working with the trainer of Brock Purdy. He is currently closer to Fort Myers working with the trainer of Gardner Minshew. So he's dedicated a lot of his time this offseason to just polishing up his mechanics, his footwork, his hips. And I think he's progressing really well. And obviously, it's not like he's just some project quarterback. This is the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Florida. He's a dynamic dual threat quarterback that makes a ton of plays with his legs as well. So, the athleticism is there, the running ability is there, the arm strength is there. We're talking about a kid who threw in the 90s as a sophomore. So it's all about him just cleaning up some mechanical things and getting his footwork right. And if he shows that as a senior, he'll have a chance to really, really move up the rankings. You don't win the Gatorade Player of the Year in the state of Florida, especially as an underclassman, if you're not a special player. And Carter Smith is certainly that. So Juju says, Tank or Terrence Crawford at 147. I feel like that's a dream fight. I don't think that one would ever happen. I don't know how Tank's power would transition to 147, but obviously he has kind of generational power in a sense. So, he's already knocked out a 147 pounder in Mario Barrios. So, I don't like Terrence Crawford, so I'm biased, and I like Tank Davis. So give me Tank Davis. Mitchell Cotton says, any clue how Michigan is determining who they curate NIL packages for? You mentioned Earls, but you can't recall any other names or any consistency or for when or who they put them together. I think it's guys that just are at the very top of the priority board that they feel our culture fits, that just need that extra push. Shamari Earls fits that because he's a culture fit. You read his interviews and stuff, and he has so many great things to say about Michigan. I've met him a few times now, and he kind of fits the bill of a Michigan kid. And he also fits the biggest need on the board right now. So I think that's a guy that you kind of make a package for. They considered doing that for Jadon Blair and Quincy Porter. We talked about Michigan having such a big need for a big-bodied wide receiver, and they landed Jacob Washington, and that's nice. But Quincy Porter was the guy that they really wanted, and I know they would have put something together for him, but Ohio State did that and prevented him from visiting. So, I think Michigan's taking steps in the right direction and is navigating the NIL waters probably a little bit better than when the summer started. You saw new general manager Sean McGee get more involved on official visits, but I think that there's still a lot of work to be done. Like I said, they're trying to do some things maybe for Shamari Earls, but that one's going to probably end up in a loss. They're trying to do some things for Quincy Porter, probably going to, it definitely ended up in a loss, losing him to Ohio State. So, yeah, I think right now there's still work to be done in that area. Zay said, anything new with CJ Sadler? No, I mean, CJ's a 26. They're trying to get him on campus for the barbecue. Top 100 athlete out of Detroit. He's a top priority. He's a guy that I absolutely love as a slot receiver. Michigan's the early leader on the on-three recruiting prediction machine, but he does have some big offers from the Southern programs like Alabama and LSU. So, CJ's pretty quiet. Doesn't really love the recruiting process. I think he's going to take his time with it, and we'll probably know more later on. Butter XO says, now that you got to see a lot of the 26 quarterbacks in person, rank the top 5 quarterbacks for 26. That's a good question. Faison Brandon, I think, is the real deal. He's ranked as a 5-star, and he has a great build, terrific arm strength, a ton of potential. I really like Faison Brandon, and a great kid too, man. Michigan was eliminated by Faison a couple of weeks ago, I guess, not a couple of weeks ago, whenever Brady Hart committed, they were completely out of the Faison Brandon race. Not that they were in it too much to begin with, but I did go down and see him early in the offseason, and I saw him at Future 50, and he personally came up to me to shake my hand and say thanks for the coverage and stuff. So really good kid, like Faison. Faison would be up there. Carter Smith, Brady Hart would be up there as well. Obviously, I think he kind of earned it on merit at the Future 50 event. I think he's going to be in the 5-star discussion for sure. So give me Brady Hart. Jaden O'Neal, who just committed to Oklahoma, I thought was right up there with Brady and Faison during the Future 50 event. So I would put Jaden O'Neal up there. Troy Hoon was not at the Future 50 event, but I really like him as a consistent passer. I think he's kind of in that next tier. So probably, he just committed to Penn State. Those 4, and then, man, I'm going to have to cheat. I didn't want to cheat and pull up the quarterback rankings, but I will just do that. Oh, Jared Curtis, I'm completely missing is the number 1 quarterback, but I actually would put him ahead of Troy Hoon, but I'm not like overly sold on Jared Curtis. I have Faison Brandon ahead of him. Ryder Lyons. I like Ryder Lyons a lot. So I would go Faison Brandon, Ryder Lyons, Brady Hart, Jaden O'Neal, and Jared Curtis. But to be honest, I haven't seen Jared Curtis. I just, I'm not super overly in love with him just on the stuff I've seen online. But those would probably be the 5. And then Troy Hoon would be kind of in that next group, I guess. And then after that, kind of a drop off, man. Like the next tier would be, Diabell would be there with Troy Hoon, but the next tier would be like Brady Smigel and Jonah Williams and Will Griffin and Noah Grubbs, who are all on the quarterback board. Like they're on my 3rd tier. So Michigan definitely won out by landing Brady Hart. Let's go to Mike Abner, and he says, who is the most underrated commit in Michigan's 2025 recruiting class? That is a good question. The most underrated recruit in Michigan's 2025 recruiting class to me might be Jalen Williams when it comes to On3's rankings. On3 has him ranked as a 3-star, and I love Jalen Williams. You guys know that I've been super high on Jalen Williams for a long time. Now, I went out to Chicagoland last fall, and I had a chance to see Jalen Williams and Nate Marshall in the same swing, and I like Jalen Williams better. This is a guy that has the size, the length, the athleticism off the edge. He's a really good run stopper as well, but he kind of makes his bread rushing the passer. He's a legit 6'5.5". He measured in at that and 255 pounds on his Michigan official visit. I think he adds another 30, 35 pounds with ease and plays kind of in a similar fashion as Mike Morris. So I'm a big Jalen Williams fan. I think that he has an argument. I definitely think he's a top 200 recruit. I think he has an argument as a top 150 recruit. I know his rankings are all over the place, with 2 services having him in the top 200 and 2 having him as a 3-star. But I'm in the top 200 camp. I love Jalen Williams. I think you get a greater appreciation for him once you see him in person. So I would go with him as the most underrated recruit in Michigan's 25 class. Let's go with Thomas Petzak, and he says, when will they get the quarterback position squared away? From a recruiting perspective, they have the quarterback position squared away. I mean, you have a dynamic playmaker in Carter Smith, and one of the best 26 quarterbacks in the country, and Brady Hart. So it's all good on the recruiting side. As far as a team side, I'm assuming sometime during fall camp. Dennis Tytek says, didn't JB Brown play for Detroit and Miami? No, probably a different JB Brown. Do you think Michigan will circle back to Carson Lawrence, Zach Spain? Yeah, that's what I'm going to ask about. He's currently committed to Vandy. Obviously, the big 3 on the Michigan safety board are Jordan Young, Jadon Blair, and Ivan Taylor. Jadon Blair is very unlikely. I still think they trail for Jordan Young, and Ivan Taylor is currently committed to Notre Dame, and you also have Alabama involved. If they miss on those 3 guys, I could see them pushing for Carson Lawrence, but it's been pretty quiet. It hasn't really been brought up. Jack says, who are some other 2025 interior offensive linemen targets in the cycle? Michigan doesn't need interior offensive linemen. Like, they already have landed interior offensive linemen in previous cycles. They already have 2 in Gash and Strayhorn. They need tackles, man. Like, yeah, they could circle back to like Rowan Byrne or Logan Powell or John Mills, but like they need to find a tackle. And also feel like we're kind of out of it for Taz. Yeah, like I said earlier, I just think they've made Philip Wright more of a priority. So right now I'm leaning on Taz ending up elsewhere. P. Maximus says, I've noticed we've loaded up on DNs the past 2 recruiting cycles. Are we going to get a run, stuff, or nose guard type? That's what I'm hoping for. DJ Sanders is at the very top of the board, but if they miss on him, I think, they'll look at some potential late risers. And like I said, I think that, nose guards, nose tackles, whatever you want to call them, so are more late senior riser candidates than maybe some other positions. We've gone over time already, guys, so let's go more rapid fire here. Oh, it looks like we only have 3 questions, so never mind. David says, which big wide receiver are you higher on, Jerome Miles or Derek Meadows? That's a good question. Both have great size. Derek Meadows has even better size, being closer to 6'6". Jerome Miles has better straight line speed, running that blazing 100-meter time. But Derek Meadows is a terrific track athlete as well, a hurdler, and was the Nevada Gatorade Track Athlete of the Year. I'd say they're fairly close. Derek Meadows doesn't have a ton of high school production, though, even at Gorman. So that's a little bit of a question mark. I think they're both up there. So, it is what it is. But give me Jerome Miles, man. It just seems like his ceiling's super high. And I will take the straight line speed over the hurdling athleticism. So I like Jerome Miles and what he can potentially become. Though I think Derek Meadows is an elite level recruit as well. B. Monty says, who is Michigan looking at if they can't flip Shamari Earls? Well, Jaden Sanders is coming in for the barbecue. He's a 3-star corner out of Texas. And I mentioned some other names Michigan would probably look at as potential flips. Micah Strickland, who's committed to TCU. Donovan Starr, who's committed to Auburn. Texas A&M has like 4 cornerback commits, so they would look at them. But yeah, Jaden Sanders is a guy that hasn't made a decision yet. He visited in the summer this past month, and now coming back for the barbecue. So things progressing pretty well with him. D. Davis says, can we beat out Stanford for Babalola? Another miss here, like Hardy would suck. What other offensive linemen are still out there? Yeah, guys, like I've said, there just aren't many other offensive linemen on the board right now. They're all in on Babalola. I think the opportunity is there to beat out Stanford, but right now I would still give Stanford the edge. Stanford obviously offers elite academics. Michigan offers better football. But I think he's having a tough time with the decision. So we'll see how it plays out. Matthew Vogel says, any surprise commits that you could see? I think things will kind of slow down in July. I don't think anybody that hasn't set a date is all that close, aside from Kamar Archie, who told me that he'll commit this month. Maybe Babalola goes later in the month. Nathaniel Owusu Boateng has been pretty fluid with his decision timeline, but you never know. Maybe the barbecue produces somebody. So we'll see how that event shakes out. And the last question is struggle streaming with BK. He says, hey, EJ, what's the red and bad for a Notre Dame fan's teeth? A prick. Is Michigan in on 26, Gregory Patrick? Yeah, Gregory Patrick's an in-state priority. He's already visited a few times. 2026 isn't necessarily the strongest year in the state of Michigan. It's not like 25 was either. I think that there are two guys that are really high up there for Michigan, and it would be CJ Sadler and Gregory Patrick. And so, yeah, he's definitely a priority. Definitely a guy they really like as an interior offensive lineman. Like I said, they've already had him on campus a couple of times, and I would expect them to get him back for the barbecue. I know he's a Michigan State legacy, I believe, which is why the Spartans have the lead on the RPM, but Michigan's already landed two Michigan State legacies this cycle in Caden Strayhorn and Avery Gatch, so not really concerned about MSU on the recruiting trail. A few other questions. I know I said that was our last question. P. Maximus says, is Owen Wayful our next nose guard? I think Michigan prefers bigger nose guards like Kenneth Grant, so I think Owen Wayful can play that, but I think he'll be more of a 3. Juju says, do you feel one of the Notre Dame safeties will decommit with Jadon Blair's commitment? Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. It could open the door up for an even bigger opportunity with Ivan Taylor. So, we'll see how that one plays out. I do expect Blair to end up there. So, maybe Michigan can make that move with Ivan, but you still have to battle Alabama. All right, guys, that is my time. Appreciate you all for joining me. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free. Subscribe to the Wolverine.com. Like I said earlier, $1 for 2 months using the promo code UM1. It gets you insider access on everything Michigan recruiting and even more information than you get here on the YouTube channel. So everybody have a happy 4th of July, and we will see you again next week.